How's everybody doing tonight? GR, how are you?
Dude, I'm good. Real good. How you doing?
I'm good.
He's got the Corona Extra.
You know I got to do it. I got to do it.
I'm rolling with my thermos full of water.
Oh, it's like that, huh?
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You have a water problem. You got a water problem.
Yeah, it makes me piss every 5 minutes.
Oh, dude, try drinking beer, right? I'm just saying. We're still looking for that sponsor. We'll get there.
I guess so. So, everybody out there in Talk Hard Land, it's been a minute since we've been on, and quite a few things have happened. But I think the biggest thing to happen was that Mike became a grandfather.
I became a granddad.
Congratulations,
yeah.
brother.
Thanks, bro.
Share a little bit about that with us before we get rolling.
Oh, it's actually been awesome. So next week I'm going to see my grandson for the first time, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. So I think I said it before. I probably said it before on one of our podcasts. I expected to hit a midlife crisis, but nope. I'm just in granddad mode. I'm all about my grandson. I'm all excited to go see him. It's super cool. Everything went perfect. He came out fine. Everything was good. Cassidy had a good transition, and
10 fingers, 10 toes.
Yeah, 2 eyes, a nose. He's got a mouth. He's the cutest kid I've ever seen.
I saw some pictures where he's got a little personality bubbling up behind his eyes already.
He sure does, and it's funny because I think all, and this is totally one-sided, I guess. I think all kids. I've worked in the neonatal intensive care unit for years, and I think all kids look like little aliens, but not this one. He's super cute. He is perfect.
Love
and
it,
I'm totally in love with this kid. It's freaking amazing.
That is the coolest thing. So happy for you. Congratulations.
Thanks, and appreciate it.
I just thought you deserved that shout out. Thought the grandson deserved that shout out. And let's roll into things now. What do we got going on this week?
So we've had a lot of stuff. It's been a minute, and
right.
And we had some scheduling issues. And the funny thing is, we both had scheduling issues.
Mostly me.
I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you about mine. But like this week, the last 3 or 4 days, I didn't even bother with it. I didn't even bother contacting you because I had stuff going on and I knew it wasn't going to work for me. So we both had scheduling issues, but we're back. We're good. Just life takes a minute. And what are you going to do? Until we get our sponsor and we're getting paid for this, it's going to be second place. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? Eventually, we'll get there. But so we've had a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. We've both been looking at current events, trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. And I think we both settled in. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we both settled in on the fact that November's coming up. It's right around the corner.
November 8th is 33 days away, I believe.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to vote on some stuff, and we kind of started looking at that a little bit, and I think that's worth talking about. But I think today, what did we decide on, G?
We were going to talk a little bit about propositions in California. I thought that's what we finally gave a thumbs up to, and primarily because voting season's coming up. I believe that starting Monday, early voting starts. I know I got my booklet in the mail last week.
So did I.
And I guess it just seems appropriate that, and plus every time I watch a damn baseball game these days, all I see is Prop 26, Prop 27. I don't see a lot of TV advertising for Prop 1, but I'm sure that one's gonna throw the state into a tizzy. So, what are your thoughts? Let's start there. What one is the first number?
All right. Let's start there. So that's an interesting one to me, right? So Prop 1, in my understanding, right? Now let me preface with that because we are far from experts in the political realm, right?
Yeah, we are
But
definitely going to be throwing around a lot of opinion and
absolutely. Let's preface everything with that. And this is, I mean, as true to form, this is a Gen X, our opinion. This is how we feel. This is where we're at.
We're going to talk loud. We're going to talk proud, and fuck them if they don't like it.
And we're going to talk hard. Goddamn right. So Prop 1 is the constitutional change that enacts a constitutional right to reproductive freedom. And I'm personally a little confused by it. And the reason for that is because Gavin Newsom has billboards in other states basically saying, hey, if you need an abortion, come to California. So regardless of how you feel on abortion, right, we all have our stance, and that's fine. But we already have the right to choice. But they want to change the Constitution to amend that to essentially give that right a freedom of choice. And what throws me off is really kind of why do we need that?
Okay,
That's my thing.
And as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not only the constitutional right to abortion, but that also includes contraceptives as well.
Yes, it's the right to use or choose not to use contraceptives. Absolutely, and that whole
That's
thing is confusing
to
to me.
too. Don't we already have the right to choose or not to choose?
Yeah, we do in the state of California. So it makes me
where's
it makes
the
me
loophole?
question. Go ahead.
No, so where's the loophole? Like,
Yeah, it makes me question. It makes me wonder, why do we need to change the Constitution if California, as democratic as it is and as progressive as it is, already reserves that right? And I mean, let's face it, that right's not going to change in California. So why do we have to change the Constitution?
Right.
That's my thing. I don't understand that. That throws me off a little bit.
So if I'm hearing you right, does that mean we're kind of sitting here saying this is a whole bunch of political smoke and mirrors?
I don't know if it's political smoke and mirrors. I want to say, so I looked it up, and California Constitution declares that defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and pursuing and obtaining safety, happiness, and privacy and inalienable rights, and that a person may not be deprived of life, liberty, or pursuit without due process of law. This is how it starts, right? So the Reproductive Privacy Act, which is what this is, declares that every individual possesses a fundamental right of privacy with respect to personal reproductive decisions, and prohibits the state from denying or interfering with a person's right to choose or obtain an abortion before viability of the fetus. This measure would amend the California Constitution to prohibit the state from denying or interfering with the individual's reproductive freedom in their most intimate decisions. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, how do you? What does intimate define that?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't define it. It just says their most intimate decisions, which includes their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion, their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. It doesn't go in, and this I'm reading the PDF. It doesn't go into a whole lot of detail other than to say that the state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom in their most intimate decisions, which includes their fundamental right to choose or have an abortion, and their fundamental right. I'm wondering if, and I may be wrong, so don't quote me on this. I'm wondering if this takes that statement of viability away from it. So right now, and being in healthcare and understanding this concept, viability is after about 24 to 26 weeks of gestation, right?
Okay.
So 24 to 26 weeks during the pregnancy, the baby is able to live outside the womb. Before that, the baby is technically, in quotes, not viable. So right now, as it's written, right? You can't deny the right to an abortion before that point of viability. So it looks to me like what this is changing is that date, that timeline, right? So I think that brings into question the late term abortions and things like that.
Sure, that's great. And that's an element of it, right? And that's a really good breakdown, I think, from you to be able to illustrate that one element. But what I'm struggling to find here is, one, what's the need? And we're both in the dark about that's difficult. And if somebody knows, please let us know. Like, if somebody's more well versed on this, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. But then there's why the need. If it's difficult to understand why they're doing this in the first place, obviously there is a reason, whether it be my intuition tells me it's going to be political at the end of the day. And so comes back to, okay, define for me reproductive freedom, right? That I'd like to know what this bill's definition of reproductive freedom is. And in my mind, we already have reproductive freedom. Let's see, what was that movie, Parenthood? Where he what was it? Where he said
Steve Martin.
No, well, with Steve Martin, but it was how did I forget his name? The goofy fool.
Keanu
Reeves. Exactly. Good call. So when he said, any butt maiming asshole can be a dad, right? So I mean, we already have. To me, we all, men, women, we have reproductive freedom. Unless you're castrated, or you have undergone a hysterectomy, we can do whatever we want to have children. As long as the egg and the sperm come together, no one's telling us not to. We have all kinds of kids running around, a huge population because of reproductive freedom. So somebody help me understand that.
Yeah, well, see, and there's a crazy. There's not crazy in a loony sense, but there's a
loony.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. There's a lot of different perspectives, right? To be quite honest with this, and one perspective might be that, hey, there are husbands and wives who would love to have kids, who can't have kids. They would love to have yours, right? And so that's one. And then there's others who.
What does that have to do with reproductive freedom, though?
Well, if they're saying that's a pro-life stance, right? That's part of the pro-life stance.
But connect the dots for me.
They're saying, you made the baby. Don't get rid of the baby. I'll take your baby. We'll raise it. It's a life. We'd love to have it as our own. We can't have our own. That's kind of what that is. And I see that. I've never experienced that, but I see that. I get it, right?
How does that connect? Still connect that dot to me. I understand what you're talking about.
So that's an anti-abortion
freedom.
Statement is what it basically is.
I understand that. Connect that to reproductive freedom for me.
Well,
because that's what we were talking about.
I know, but it's an anti-reproductive freedom kind of stance. It's the thought that I don't think abortion should be legal, right? And this is in quotes. This isn't me saying this. It's the thought that abortion should not be legal because there are families that wish they could have kids that can't, and by you having the abortion, you're depriving that family of the right to have a family in that sense via adoption, right? That's kind of what they're saying with that.
I don't know what I'm going to just being honest here. I don't know what you just said, other than the fact I get where you're trying to. I get what you're trying to say.
No, I know you're trying to take it back to reproductive freedom, and it's an anti thing.
No, hold on. I get that part, but so you said all of what you said, but to what end? That's just a stance, right? Let's get back to picking apart what this is all about. So let's get past reproductive freedom. So because reproductive freedom, from what I understand, was called something else. It was called SCA 10, which I don't know a whole lot about, but it was it was a Senate constitutional amendment, right? So there's a whole lot here that just to me sounds like political doublespeak to get something on the books that may or may not allow them to do something later, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Down the line.
So what you're talking about is a late term abortion. That's where you're headed.
No. That's not what I'm headed.
That's what you're referring to there.
No, I can guarantee you that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is the writers of this bill are using this bill as a stepping stone to create an issue over who knows what later down the line.
Oh, I see. Later that way. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
I misunderstood you. Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's possible. But what could that be? That's your question?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I mean, because there are so many questions. That's just my feeling about it.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
That's kind of where I come from. Rather than diving in and trying to, conjure up who may
Gotcha.
feel what about what side or what thing, I'm trying to look at this objectively. Like, look, they're trying really hard to quote unquote codify this bill into law and amend the Constitution of the state of California. To what end?
And your question is, what's the next step? What's the end game? That's your question.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry.
No,
I'm
we're
with you
good.
now. So let's see. Right to privacy guaranteed
And we
by
may, I
Section
mean,
1
I don't
of the
think there is
Constitution.
an answer, at least apparent to us. And I mean, and I don't mean just you and I think, the residents and citizens of California at large.
Right. So what did you say? Did you say SCA 5?
It was SCA 10.
This
Senate-
is SCA 10. That's what
Right.
I'm reading.
Yeah. So reproductive freedom, and initially known as SCA 10. So it's been SCA 10 has been renamed, and this is
Right,
what
okay.
these are the patterns that get me to think in those lines. It's like, okay, we called it SCA 10, right? And we had to rebrand this bill as reproductive freedom to make it seem make it seem like it was something that's being taken away if we don't get it, or kept from us if we don't get it. And I honestly, my gut feeling is that it's a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors to lay the groundwork to create more divisive issues down the road.
So the portion that is being added says the state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom in their most intimate decisions, which includes the fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptions. This section is intended to further constitutional right to privacy guaranteed by Section 1 and the constitutional right to be denied equal protection guaranteed by Section 7. Nothing herein narrows the limits of the right to privacy. So
what I heard right there was blah, 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 blah. We're playing
I
politics
know.
with your lives.
No, I know. So the explanation is the measure would amend the Constitution to prohibit the state from denying or interfering with that freedom, which includes, and this is what I think is the important part, includes their fundamental right to choose and have an abortion, and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. And I think what it does is it makes it more generic, because right now the right is guaranteed if the fetus is not viable. And so I think this is a late-term abortion issue. So that's what I think it is,
let's
based
unwrap
off what
this
I'm
a
reading.
little bit. Let me throw this pitch at you and see. Because,
Go for it.
So earlier this year, the Supreme Court told the land, look, at a federal level, this isn't an issue. This is a state issue.
Right.
And so what's interesting to me is if that never happened, and like the state of Gavin Newsom in the state of California was we need this to, or actually no, let me go back on that. that was a bad thing, right? They were saying that the feds should not have thrown it back to the states.
You're talking about the overturning of Roe versus Wade.
The overturning
Yeah.
of Roe v. Wade,
Yeah.
right? So what's interesting to me is all that time when the overturning of Roe v. Wade happened, the state of California was crying foul, crying BS, crying, your freedoms are being infringed upon. But guess what? This Proposition 1 doesn't get to be viable unless that Roe v. Wade is overturned. It has no merit.
Right.
It has no anything. So this is all
Absolutely.
just bullshit. This is
No, I hear you. This is a political stance, I think, by the state to enact a statewide Roe v. Wade. That's basically what it is.
Yes,
right.
It's
them
can
saying,
see.
yeah.
But in all reality, I think if you dig down to the bottom of it, we're trying to buy your vote, we're trying to pander.
Oh yeah.
To get your vote. That to me is what I see, and then also to be able to leverage the new codified law of the land to create more divisive issues later down the road. That's my gut
No, I
feeling.
agree.
And I could totally
I
be
agree.
wrong.
And the funny thing is, like, I'm pro-life, right? But I'm not pro-life and done. I'm reasonable. Yeah, I'm not pro-choice, and I'm not pro-choice because it takes two to tango. A man was involved in that process of making that kid. The man, in my opinion, that does have a say. If he chooses to not be involved, then he leaves it up to the woman, and then it becomes her choice, not his. But and I do believe that there are limitations to the pro-life argument, and so I get, I take a pro-life stance, but I do understand there are always extenuating circumstances, and those extenuating circumstances need to be laid out. And so if you're going to make a constitutional amendment, you need to make a constitutional amendment that is appropriate, that says we're going to protect life, and we're going to protect life, period. However, there are instances where a woman's life is either in danger or something traumatic happened or something along those lines where it is understood, and we can look at that as a whole and say, you know what, I wouldn't want to be in that situation either, or I wouldn't want to have my life threatened, or I wouldn't want to have the traumatic experience. So although I'm pro-life with reason. I'm not.
So
just,
what I hear you saying is that if there was a situation where a woman's life was in jeopardy in the delivery room, or anywhere else for that matter, because babies can be had anywhere. If there was a situation that arose and it was her life at stake, and the way to save her life was to perhaps DNC on the baby, right? And so baby then passes, and the wife or the mother happens to live. If the law was written in such a way where we said there were no abortions, period, it always ended on pro-life, you'd be okay with that scenario happening, and it shouldn't be illegal.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So in that situation, somebody's got to make a choice. Mom needs to make the choice.
Sure.
Right.
And that's a tough choice. Absolutely.
And if that's the choice for life, then that's the choice for life. You can't, as a government, take that choice away from somebody. You simply can't. Right. But what you can do is you can take the choice away, I think, right, of you saying, hey, this is a person on the street, and bear with me, this will make sense. This is a person on the street. You shot this person in the head. That wasn't a choice. That wasn't an okay choice to make, right? So if there are extenuating circumstances where I'm being threatened and I, in defense, take that person's life, that's one thing. And we make that distinction already in court.
Well, but that's
I just take that life, that's not my choice to do, right? And so the question then becomes, when does life begin? right? And I have an answer to the question.
Sure.
And I have a medical answer to that question.
Okay, give it.
Well, the answer is the answer starts when someone passes away. If somebody dies in the hospital, the way we determine death is one of two ways. First, if they come in and they're in a cardiac arrest and we can't revive them, we look for signs of life. Heartbeat, right? Breathing. We look for these things. If they are absent and we're considering calling the code or stopping our resuscitative efforts, that's what we look for. So that's one way, heartbeat. Second is if the patient has or does not have brain function. So say the patient comes in and they're, quote, brain dead. We have to run tests, and even though they have a heartbeat, prove that they have no brain function. And in that situation, we leave it up to the family to make that choice. This is a pro-choice stance. In that extenuating circumstance, now the family has the right to make the choice to withdraw support. And so I look at it as, and I know for a fact that a fetus has a heartbeat as early as 6 weeks of gestation, but always by 8 weeks gestation. So if we're looking at heart rate, by 8 weeks gestation, by our standards of death in the hospital,
we have viability.
That is a life. You know what I mean?
So, well, let me ask you this, though. So what you just told me was, well, let me better rephrase that. Absent of brain activity with just a heartbeat, that's viable?
So the word viable needs to be defined, right? Able to sustain life.
To sustain
yes.
life. That's the definition, right? So let's go back to what you just said. So you were saying that there were two ways in death, right? So you were saying heartbeat and brain function. Is it and or?
It's and or.
Okay. So then if you're going to use that same logic to determine the beginning of life, then it goes back to you don't necessarily need to prove that a fetus has a fully formed brain. As long as they have the heartbeat, we have viability.
It's a little more involved than that. So say I get hit by a car, I have a heartbeat, but we don't think I have brain function, we have to prove that I do not have brain function before support can be withdrawn.
Okay.
So my heartbeat is enough to keep me alive until we prove or disprove brain function. At that point, then the family, next of kin, gets the choice.
Now, isn't there a difference
in utero?
There,
in utero, stay with me here. In utero, we don't have the ability to prove or disprove brain function necessarily until the baby's born.
Well, that's where I was going to.
We kind of have to default to the heartbeat.
Well, so here's what I was going to get at. I see where you're at, and I'm probably 95% there with you, or actually I could probably say 99% there with you. So the way I look at it is in utero, you have the heartbeat. So check that box.
Right.
And I think a lot of the arguments is that while in utero, the expectation is that it is going to progress and grow into its brain function.
Correct.
Right? So
now when that happens, I do not have the answer. I do not know that off the top of my head.
But in death, I think you can make the distinction that brain function was there. It's not now. So it's two different arguments, right? And
correct.
And I think it's a lot easier on the in-death side. And believe me, I went through that with my father. Because we had to make that choice. We had to make that decision as a family. And those were the questions we asked. It was like, look, is he responding to treatment? The answer was no. Was his body gonna sustain if if we took them off treatments and
Right.
left it to, the gods or Mother Nature, whatever the hell you believe in, right? Is if we took them off the treatments and we took him off the machines, would his body sustain? And if it did, what would be that quality of life? If
Exactly.
it didn't, where are we? And that was an easy choice. With a developing baby, it's a totally different thing. So I can
Agreed.
see where there's parallels, and I can see where there's like, okay, we've got to really think about that. So wrapping that all around, I think that you brought a lot of good points to the table.
Yeah, I think my point is that you can't be. It's impossible to be all the way
100%.
pro-choice or all the way pro-life.
Well,
it's impossible to be either because there are faults in both extremes. I think that's in the end result is that's my point.
Sure.
Is that although I'm pro-life, I understand that there are exceptions to that rule.
I was just
There
about
have
to
be.
get to that. It's the
Yeah,
fact
there
that
have to be.
there are in life, in utero, and upon exiting this world, there are no 100%.
Absolutely.
Now, anecdotally, here and there have been cases going back to the beginning of time where people who were believed to be dead were still living.
Yeah.
And so things happen, and that's just the way. So you can never, ever, 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 ever be 100%
Agreed.
sure. Like,
Yeah, I agree 100%.
on either side. So, at the end of the day, my take on this one is that this is a whole bunch of fucking hocus pocus to get people
It's a political play.
to get people emotionally charged enough to cast a vote.
Yeah, I agree. It's a political play to polarize.
Yeah, for sure.
Is what I think it is. So let's move on to let's move away from that.
Yeah,
let's move
away
on to
from
Prop
that.
26 and 27.
Okay, let's do those two because they're very they kind of run in parallel with a few differences. So
They do,
break
and
it
let's
down.
do them together. So let me explain Prop 26, and then let me explain Prop 27. And I'll explain it kind of in a nutshell. I don't need to read the PDFs on these because I like to gamble, and I like to gamble on sports
This
too.
one's
And we
near
live in-
and dear to your heart.
Well,
And your
my thing
wallet.
is I understand them a little better, right? So Prop 26 allows for in-person roulette and in-person dice games and in-person sports wagering in the tribal casinos in California.
So that breaks down to a better experience for gamblers in California casinos because playing roulette with cards or
Mystery
dice with
card roulette
cards-
is stupid.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I know you played craps with cards in the casinos before, right? In California,
have.
and it sucks.
It sucks. It used to be really cool. So Pachanga used to use 2 6-deck shoes, and they would go through the entire decks, and so you could figure out when it was cooling and when it was getting hot and when it was cooling. You could pretend to go to the bathroom for a half hour, come back. Right? You can't do that anymore. So I would actually, personally, I would prefer dice at the craps table. I would prefer, if I'm going to play roulette, actual roulette.
Yeah.
And I would love to head down to Pachanga and bet on a football game. That would be awesome. So I'm all for Prop 26. The funny thing is, those that are in favor of Prop 26 tend to oppose 27. So let's talk about 27.
Before you get
Because-
there, well, so
Okay.
we're probably the way you led that up, you lined that up. You said they're probably going to oppose 27.
Oh, no, they do.
Okay,
And I'll explain
why?
that. I'll explain
Tell
that
me
in a sec.
why first.
Well, it's because of what Prop 27 does. Let me explain 27 and you'll get
All
it.
right, let's go.
So what Prop 27 does is Prop 27 allows for online and mobile sports gambling, not just with the tribal casinos, but with FanDuel, DraftKings.
Yeah, so they don't want you to
those-
sit on
those-
your ass and do it at home when they want you to come into the casino.
More than that, they don't want to share the profits with FanDuel and DraftKings.
Well, yeah, that's
so
the
so Prop 26 allows you to do So I like Prop 26 because it allows you to do that in person at the tribal casinos. What Prop 27 does is it allows you to gamble on sports online legally in California.
Let me ask you a
And-
question. Let me ask
Go
you
ahead.
a question. Aren't you doing it now already?
I am, but
Okay.
I'm not doing it in the United States. I send Bitcoin and I have to do an offshore thing. So, but my thing is, the reason that those who oppose 26 and yes for 27 and those who are for 27 or those who oppose 27 and are for 26, those that are yes on 26 and no on 27 are tribal based.
So you
they
can't-
don't want to give up that piece of the
Yeah,
pie.
I totally get you there.
That's what that is.
That I understand. So my question now is, in the state of California, I can't download DraftKings right now and make a wager.
You not a money wager, no.
So if I did it, I would be playing with credits.
Correct. You'd be playing with credits. Now, the funny thing is,
How do I cash
DraftKings-
out credits?
Say that again.
What would be the point of doing it with credits, though? How would I cash out at the end?
So DraftKings right now is mostly what is it called when you I can't even remember now because I don't do it. When you pick the players and then you bet throughout the season.
Oh,
What is that called?
fantasy.
Yeah. Right now, DraftKings is mostly fantasy. And so what you do is you put money in and then you can win money on your fantasy team.
Okay,
It's
but
not sports betting. It's different.
Okay, so that really comes down to, again, kind of how laws are written, right? So if it's a
Yeah.
if you're not betting on a like an MLB franchise game,
Right.
game or an NFL game, anything like that, if you bet on those, it's illegal. If you're just
Right.
betting on a player who plays on that, and it's all kind of just like,
No, it's different. It's actually drastically different. So when I come to your house and you're watching the Dodgers, I'm not a huge baseball fan. So what I do is I hop on my app, which is offshore, and I do live in-game betting, which is illegal in the state of California. Shh, don't tell anybody.
you just told the world.
Shh, don't tell anybody. With DraftKings, so what you do is you show up at somebody's house and you all put in $100 and you do your fantasy picks, and at the end of the season, the winner gets the money, right? That's what DraftKings is right now.
No, I understand that. So
What Prop 27 will allow them to do is it'll allow me to bet on Thursday night football, that single game with the line, or do the with the point spread, or do the money line and do the prop betting. It'll allow me to do that online.
Yeah, I get that. So what I was trying to break down is, right now, if I were to bet on MLB, NFL, NHL, anything like that, in the state of California, right now, that's illegal.
Correct.
Prop 27 would change that.
That's correct.
Okay, now, today, if I were to bet on an NFL player that is a fantasy player, that is not illegal.
Because that's not looked on as betting.
Well, that's what I was just
yeah.
getting at. So follow me
Yeah.
here. So
Okay, go ahead.
if I bet on an NFL player playing in an NFL game in a fantasy league, that's legal currently.
Correct.
Okay.
As far as I know, that
the
is
reason
legal.
why-
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. And the reason why is because the way the law is defined right now and written.
Yes.
And that's
Okay,
what I'm
yeah,
getting
You're right.
at.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. So now if we break down the benefits of Prop 27, do that for me as somebody who's gambling and likes and gets entertained by that and makes a few bucks here and loses a few bucks there. What are the benefits to those people? And then what are the drawbacks?
So the benefits and drawbacks, I'm both, right? So I don't like fantasy football. I've tried it. I'm not a fan of having to do the draft and then figure out who's got most yards, who's got most
Okay,
TDs.
so can I call a timeout real quick? Can I call a timeout real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
As a gambling enthusiast, if Prop 27 passes, what's going to be great? What's going to be good about it?
I'm going to be able to legally, with cash, bet on the weekend's games like you do in Vegas,
And
which you cannot do right now.
Okay, and then does that, in your mind, just help the gambling community in a way that's positive, or does it create more gamblers? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do. It does create more gamblers. They have to give, I want to say it's 10% profits, 10% or 10% of the 10% of the wagers placed have to go back to the state of California. That's, I think, Prop 27. Prop 26 doesn't do any of that for the state of California. So when you look at the commercials, they say, Prop 27 helps the homeless.
Yes,
it helps
yes,
this.
yes.
It helps, right? All of that stuff is true. There's nothing negative. There's nothing inaccurate about that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what Prop 27 does is those FanDuels, those DraftKings, they have to give money back to the state of California for being able to operate in the state of California.
Right, and here's
Whereas Prop 26 just gives the in-person ability to the tribal casinos.
Now here's where I take pause and wish there was more transparency in propositions, because they're selling it on it's going to help the homeless, it's going to do this, it's going to do that,
Right.
it's going to do that. Do we really know? Do we really know
don't.
where, and government, modern day government has been doing this forever, where they will present a bill and they'll give you the high level stuff, push down all this other crap down below, sell it one way, and then get all the other down below crap
Oh yeah.
Codified into law, and then we're stuck with it, and we don't even really know what we voted for. And I mean, my personal opinion is that 99 times out of 100 we've probably been lied to about it in the first place. So
yeah, no, for sure. So the way I look at it is, I look at it as somebody who lives in California who goes to Vegas a lot, right? I like craps. I'm not a huge roulette fan, but I like craps. In California, I won't play craps because I don't like the way, because I understand the odds change and I understand how that changes. And so I won't play craps in California if they even have craps, right? Because the cards it's different. It's a different pull. And I do like sports betting. And you know what? I could get on my current app and I can bet real money, and I can bet on sports, right? It's not legal in California, but it's an offshore company, and I get the same lines that I get in Vegas. So I can do that. I can bet on UFC, I can bet on football games, I can bet on baseball games, I can bet on whatever I want.
Yeah, sounds like
right?
a lot of fun. And
But
now,
what this does is this lets me go to a regular 26 lets me go to a regular casino and do that
and do it
in
from
Southern
home.
California.
Now, does that take away from the trip to Vegas? Does that make the trip to Vegas not as cool?
Well, so I think that might be part of the opposition. Is it does take away from people who are going to have to go to Vegas, people not like me, right? So not everybody's comfortable with betting on an offshore betting site.
So this is where you create new bettors, is what you're saying.
I had to vet them. I had to vet them out and figure out which one I was comfortable with, and then try it, and then be comfortable with it, and realize I'm okay with that one. Not everybody is comfortable doing that, so those people will have to go to Vegas. They'll have to find a bookie, or they'll have to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The combination of these two, I think, is a good thing. Both of them have to give money to California, 26 and 27. The tribal lands have to give some of that money to California. 27, they got to give, I think it's 10% of their wagers to California. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think for people like me, it makes it more convenient than it is. I mean, now granted, mine's really convenient. I could log on right now and place a bet. No big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that 27 Prop 27 makes it that much more convenient for me. It just means what I'm doing isn't illegal in the state of California.
Sure.
That's all it means.
And if you're an enthusiast, you're going to find a way to get it done, right? Is the bottom
Exactly.
line.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, I'm a yes on 26 and a yes on 27 personally. I don't see why they're opposing each other, but I get it that the tribal, the tribal casinos are opposing 27 because they don't want to give up money.
Yeah,
I
well,
get
they're
that.
highly publicized propositions. The commercials are everywhere. You scroll on your phone, you'll see ads. I mean, it's just wild. That I haven't seen as many ads for Prop 1, but I think as we kind of wind this up, at the end of the day, folks, all we can really do is read these things. Maybe perhaps talk to your local politicians, see if you can get straight answers out of them. I've done that before where I didn't understand things and gone to local politicians' offices. Most of the time I'm going to be honest, most of the time I didn't get a straight answer. There's a few times where I did, and that's helpful. And I mean, really, to me, my take is we're never going to know the full story.
Absolutely.
To steal from you being a gambling enthusiast, we're really, pun intended, rolling the dice.
True.
And we don't know what those real outcomes are going to be. And typically, what happens is we're going to find out long term when our taxes go way up, or the homeless population gets screwed over, or all of a sudden we're being told that our freedoms depend on this or that, and that's what it is. So go in, do the research, guess your best, and always go with your conscience.
And I think that's interesting. So 26 and 27 is what we're talking about, and that's a great statement. I don't know that 26 or 27 increase our taxes, but that's a perfect segue actually into Proposition 28 if you want to move there.
Well, let's go fast.
All right. So Proposition 28 is additional funding for arts and music education in public schools.
Okay.
And the funny thing about Prop 28 is there's two things about it. I mean, obviously, it's a good thing because it funds arts and music in public schools. It increases taxes, but as of today, there is no argument against it. No one has placed an argument against it that's been published.
So, yeah, you bring up a good point there, and it's funny. One of the projects I'm working now is for somebody who's trying to win a local office seat. Okay. And what's interesting is, as I was doing a video shoot at one of their events, I was speaking to the current mayor of the city that I'm doing this in, and he said there's this really crazy dichotomy, right, where there's a real need for some of these resources, and these resources cost money. Whether it's a program, whether it's a resource, whatever it is, these things cost money. Now, I'm not going to lie. I would say probably 90 to 95% of the time, I'm going to vote don't raise my taxes.
Right.
Right? And because you don't. But then it's super difficult for municipalities if those kind of propositions aren't voted in because they don't get that revenue, and then all of a sudden they're scrambling to find other ways to make this happen and letting down the community at the same time, because on one side of the mouth we're saying don't raise my taxes. On our other side of our mouth, we're saying we want this, we want this, we need this, we got to have this. And so that's a real tough one, right? And I think it would really help.
I don't think it's that tough, actually.
I do,
and
too.
that's the funny thing is,
Well,
I
tell
don't
me
think
more.
it's that tough. I think people take a stance because that's the stance they think they're supposed to take, and so there are a lot of people that vote along party lines, and there are a lot of people that say, you know, if it's going to cost me money, it's a no. But you have to really think about something like this. I mean, I have no kids in public school. I don't. My kids are graduated and in college and married and so on. But I look at this and I think, hey, you know, if you're going to raise my taxes for something, this might be something I'd be okay with.
Well,
you
that's
know
what
I mean?
I'm getting at, and I think that's
Yeah.
but here's what I'm talking about is that's what makes it tough, right? Because, and
Right.
I don't mean tough for maybe you or me, because I think along the same lines that you do. Almost like going back to when I make consumer decisions, right? I go, this is going to cost a lot of money, but you know what? Is it worth it? To me,
Yeah.
in the end, is it going to be worth it? It's going to be a hit, and have I saved for it? Do I have the income, or do I have the saving, whatever I'm deciding to part with, because it's going to be worth it, right? And what happens is, I think where it gets tough is the fact that I think so many of us don't feel like these propositions are transparent enough for us to make
Right.
that decision in a really meaningful way.
No, I agree. And I think I think Proposition 28 is going to pass. I think that's something that's hard to deny, regardless of party lines, regardless of right or left. I think that's hard to deny. And what you're going to get, the no votes you're going to get are the people that are those people looking at, is it raise my taxes? No, never mind. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get the no
or
votes
is
from
my
the blind.
party for or against it, yes or no? And they're going to vote
You're going to get
that way.
you're going to get the blind no votes. And if you think about it, you know, even as somebody who's a little conservative and doesn't have kids in public school, I look at this and I go, yeah, I'll vote yes on this. You
And
know,
what's-
absolutely.
Right. That's a good point too,
Yeah.
because in a lot of work that I've been doing recently, it's interesting to me where I found myself really reaching out and working with people that I normally wouldn't have, and being more flexible in my decision making because it's for the greater good, and not
yeah.
getting so caught up in my ideals. Now, I think that it's because I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit wiser, and I see a little bit more of the bigger picture, and I'm not as idealistic as I may have been 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But the more and more that I do work that affects the community, or affects more than me, myself, or my immediate family, you start to understand that, you know, look, if it can work for the greater good, sometimes you just got to be open enough to listen a little bit harder, and maybe perhaps take a second and a third look before you stomp your foot down and make that decision.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things to that point, I was reading an article, I shared it with you a long time ago, like the 3 things that the SEALs do to make decisions,
Yes,
the Navy
yes.
SEALs. One of the things they do is they say, one of the most important things that they say is they say, you know, find the opposition and listen to them, because that is where your mind gets, that's where you get open.
And
you know,
then-
that's where you start figuring out, okay, here's the opposition, let me take that into consideration. And that's part of critical thinking, is to find everybody who disagrees with you. If you spend your life sitting around these people and you all think the same, that's where closed-mindedness occurs.
I agree. And then to take that a step further with the SEALs and the military in general, when they're going out on mission and they're taking that into consideration, they're not, when they go in, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing
Right.
it for the brother to the right of them and to the left of them.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it work, and especially in those elite teams, right? So I think when you pause, like you said, and really look at how the SEALs do it, and pretty much the rest of our military. And,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know, the maybe the military past. That's probably another. I won't get too crazy into that. That's probably another discussion for another time.
For sure.
But you know, if you take that pause and think about it like that, I agree with you that. You know, look at the opposition, look at where they're coming from, and when you actually go and make those decisions and start to take action, you know, think about the person to the left of you, think about the person to the right of you, and how it's going to affect the whole. And you know, sometimes it'll be good, sometimes it'll be bad, sometimes you'll make the wrong decision, sometimes you'll make the right decision. Another thing I like to say is, with all that, make a decision and don't let it paralyze you. You'll never know otherwise. And you know what? You can always change something, even a law.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what makes our United States a beautiful thing. Is nothing is set in stone, and that's why it's important for people to listen, to discuss, to have conversations, to talk hard.
Sorry about the dog.
No, zero had something to say, man.
Zero had something to say. He's always got something to say. That dude, he's so vocal.
Right on. Well, with that, I think we can wrap it up today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up for today, for sure.
Awesome. So go ahead and run with it, man.
So I think you know, you just summed it up, I think, perfectly. We've covered some stuff, and we tried not to cover. Well, there's a few more propositions that we didn't get to today. We'll try and get to them next time. But I think really we're not trying to sway anybody's decision or make our opinion your opinion. Our goal is to
talk hard. Don't be defensive.
Talk hard and help you think. You know,
you don't have to
help you
explain
think for yourself. You know, part of talking hard is, you know what? I don't care what you think. You know, you're listening to this podcast right now. You have an opinion. It might differ from mine. I don't care, and I'm asking you not to care, right? So we just wanted to kind of lay out some information. Yes, I gave you my opinion and where I stand on these and where I'm going to vote on these, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to vote on these. The funny thing is, you get LA Times, you get KFI, you get NPR, and they give you their voter guide. They give that voter guide to the blind. For the people who don't want to think about it, and they just say, look, I'm Democrat, I'm progressive, I'm going to vote however NPR tells me. Don't do that. You think for yourself. KFI does the same thing for the right wing, for the conservatives. This is sorry, John and Ken, love you guys. This is John and Ken's voter guide. Vote like this. And people that are blind, vote that way. That's their opinion. You need to make your own opinion. Make your own opinion.
I agree with that.
So
100%. So, hey guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully you're enjoying what we've got going on. We invite you to come back next time, and you know, make sure that you're doing the things it takes to subscribe, smashing the bell so that you get those notifications when the next episode comes up, and let's just do the damn thing until next time.
absolutely. Cheers, everybody. Have a great time. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye.